You are watching Simon Says on Mtgo Academy featuring Simon Götzen.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Simon Götzen with a follow-up to last episode's view at Proto Born of the Gods. We looked at the draft viewer from day one, and I thought it would just make sense to look at the draft viewer from day two. Now, that's going to be players who have done well in Modern, but also in Born of the Gods, Theros draft, so maybe we'll see some differences, but overall it's just about getting a feel for how this draft format works, not only when you start picking cards from your pack, but also as a game that has 8 players competing for the best cards. Now, as always, this is only a very limited view. I'm going to show you here, showing you the first 4 picks of each of the 8 players, and in each column you can see the contents of a single pack that was opened, which means that player 1 here first picked a Cursor of Crufix over Siren of the Silent Song, over Excoriate, and over Nessian Demolog. Now you might be asking, where is the second pick from player 1? Well, it's actually here. It's Kiora's Follower, and then his third pick is Divination, his fourth pick is Ferris Band Tromper. So what this means is that for each player, you start at his or her first pick, and then you go down a left diagonal, which is just how I have aligned the cards. Of course, I could have done it the other way around as well. So this is how I did it for the last draft. So I kept with the same setting, and we'll have now have the tools at our hands to look at how the starting picks of a draft shape how well in which colors people end up and how easy it is to stay in the color of your first pick, for example. Alright, let's start with the straightforward things. Player 1 starts with Cursor of Crufix, definitely a great card to start your draft with. Then there's Kiora's Follower over Oreskos Sunguide, which I think is fine if you started with a green card. I personally don't like the gold card as much, but then Divination out of a presumably a weak pack, and Ferris Band Tromper. So player 1 makes some reasonable picks here. Not really much to say about that, except that you might not want to second pick Kiora's Follower if there's also an Oreskos Sunguide in the pack. But with a green first pick, I can see going with the gold card here. This turns out to be a good decision because player 8 has first pick Abrimus, King of Oreskos, out of his pack. And this draft is a little more interesting. Well, the first picks are. The second pack is the weak pack that got player 1 the Divination, and Deepwater Hypnotist is a solid 2-drop, but nothing too exciting. And then when pack 3 comes around, Nyxborn Wolf is a card that player 8 is willing to pick up over Ferris Band Tromper, which is reasonable, and that opens him up to drafting a third color. So not afraid of picking up 3 different colored cards in the first 3 picks. But then Excoriate comes around. And of course with the Abrimus already, the player 8 has a high interest in getting white cards if white is available. Now, funnily enough, the person in front of him, first pick Hero of Lena Tower, leading to a second pick Fanatic of Xenagos. We see the second gold card being second pick, and there's actually a third one here in Siren of the Silent Song, simply because the person's first pick corresponds to one of the colors. Cursor of Crufix into Kiora's Follower, Hero of Lena Tower into Fanatic of Xenagos, and as we'll see here, Herald of Torment into Siren of the Silent Song. Now, what this, of course, means is that branching into green for this player, and also for player 1, is going to be a bit more difficult if player 7 continues drafting green in front of them. And now, there's something that's really interesting to me. There's a sudden storm here, and even though player 7 picked up Hero of Lena Tower and then Fanatic of Xenagos with a plan to go into red-green, Sudden Storm is a very powerful card and definitely a signal, and most players at the Pro Tour knew about the value and the power level of Sudden Storm, some even calling it the best blue common in the set. I don't quite agree. I think that Retraction Helix is better, and I'm also a player that doesn't want too many Sudden Storms in my draft decks. On the other hand, I know that a lot of good players really like this card, so don't underestimate that Sudden Storm. Now, why did player 7 get a 7th pick Sudden Storm, a 3rd pick Sudden Storm? Now, that's a pretty easy to explain. Somebody first picked Faded Conflagration over it, player 5 to be exact, and I don't really think that that can be correct, simply because triple red is such a high cost in this format. It's I really don't like the faded spells that much. I did first pick the green one myself at the Pro Tour, but I'm never happy about it. I first picked the green one in my example because I wanted to be green if at all possible at the table I was sitting at. But the Faded Conflagration, in my opinion, is just a pretty weak card that forces your mana to be either heavily red, which you can't really decide on with your first pick, or it's just going to be effectively a 5 or 6 mana card, and then it's just not very good. Probably on the power level of maybe Sip of Hemlock, and I'm not even sure about that because 5 damage is so much worse than killing a creature outright in this format. Now, the second pick of this pack is also interesting. It's a Loyal Pegasus. Now, in general, I would say that Sudden Storm is clearly better than Loyal Pegasus. However, the first pick of player 6 that we haven't talked about yet was an Akroan Skyguard. So I think it's clear that Sudden Storm is better than Loyal Pegasus, but Loyal Pegasus is the best white card in the pack, and with an Akroan Skyguard as a first pick, you want to make sure that you don't send the wrong signals. You want to position yourself on white and make sure that things are working out. There's also the blue-white evasion archetype, which is really good, which really wants the Loyal Pegasus. So Loyal Pegasus is not a bad card at all. It's just surprising to see it go this early. But the first pick, Akroan Skyguard, kind of explains why this is happening. Interestingly enough, player 6 is then moving into blue himself after getting past Nyxborn Triton and Stratus Walk. A pretty solid start into potentially just drafting a blue-white deck with 4 commons actually being picked here. One of the, I think, the only person to only pick commons. Now, I have no clue what player 5 is planning here. With the Rise to the Challenge second and a Thunderbrood third, I think each of these picks, he's passing better cards to his neighbors. And my only explanation is that this is some predetermined strategy, wanting to go into mono red or heavy red, either even before the draft or after having first picked Faded Conflagration. Otherwise, I cannot explain this second pick. Now, one thing that is true is that there's always the chance that the draft viewer is wrong. I actually worked on this one. I was watching player 2 draft his blue-black deck. So we cannot always say this with absolute certainty, but I would just say that if this is correctly recorded, has been correctly recorded, I don't really like this pick at all. It is within the color of your first pick, but there is no reason to be that restrictive. Now, player 4, a first pick Xenagos out of this pack, reasonable pick, and then wasn't afraid to move out of red-green, so not interested in a Thunderbrood and maybe some other cards in this pack, but went with potentially the strongest card in the pack, Retraction Helix, and then some green cards came along, Nyxborn Wolf and Nessian Damalog. Now, the 4th pick, Nessian Damalog, had a green rare as the first pick, but that's not really a problem. This is quite a long distance for 2 players to be drafting green. Yeah, staying open, then moving into green, and now green-blue, green-red are both two great combinations after such a start. We just talked about staying open, and player 3 has a different approach, which is somewhat similar to the person picking Loyal Pegasus after first picking a Akroan Skyguard, but this is a bit more extreme. After first picking Archetype of Courage, There is, for example, a Nyxmore Wolf in the pack, but player 3 opts for Dawn to Dusk instead. So following it up with Excoriate and Oreskos Sunguide, clearly wanting to also solidify themselves in white, maybe even force white. That's what it looks like. White being known as the best color in this draft format, at least that's what a lot of people think. And you start with a white first pick, maybe just pick all the white cards you can get. The power level in one of the gods isn't super high, so maybe the positioning is more important than the actual power of the cards. Oreskos Sunguide is a great signal, even though there was a Primus in the pack, that white could be open. On the other hand, Dawn to Dusk and Excoriate do not really excite me. I wouldn't have thought that Dawn to Dusk was a second pickable card in this format. It is a sorcery and it does generate value if you manage to do both of these things, but otherwise it's very unexciting, and it's also just not a good tempo play. So this is one of the most interesting picks of this draft to me. And then last but not least, there is the Herald of Torment. So as it turns out, somebody has to draft the black cards, and it is the person first picking Herald of Torment. As far as I know, this is going to be maybe the only black drafter, or maybe at least the only heavy black drafter at the table. And he actually gets a 6th pick, Siren of the Silent Song, in addition to the one he already has. Now this draft is pretty straightforward again, with the black first pick, willing to go into blue-black, thanks to the uncommon being passed to him. Stratus Walk, not exciting. Black of Odonos, also not exciting, but at least it looks like the black cards are available in this draft. So what can we tell here? Pretty colorful opening. Everything is represented. Blue isn't being first picked, but then there is a high quality of blue cards, both the 2 gold cards, and then Helix, Hypnotist, Triton, Sudden Storm, even Divination, all being picked up quite early. So blue definitely also in the picture. This makes for a more diverse color distribution than the heavy white drafting that we saw in the draft viewer from day one. On the other hand, we still see that white is very much popular, very much drafted. It's just that the players that didn't first pick white cards aren't as eager to go into white themselves. So 3 white drafters, probably a good amount for this table. All right, this is what I have for draft viewer 2. I of course, there's always more to find out. You could continue going through this draft, and if you feel like it, definitely do so. This is, as always, only a short view. To me, the most interesting things about this draft format is, how do you continue after a powerful first pick? How open do you want to stay? We have all the examples here. We have somebody first picking a gold card, but following it up with a blue card that isn't in one of his colors. And then we have, actually, as the random nature of the packs made it possible, first picking a green card, second picking a gold card, first picking a black card, second picking a gold card, and even, first picking a green card, second picking a gold card. So these kind of dynamics definitely shaped how this table worked out. And then there's the player just picking white cards only, and the loyal Pegasus that got upgraded to a second pick because Own Turtenwald likes it better than Sudden Storm when starting off with an Akron Skyguard. Or at least he did at this table. Alright, interesting for sure. This is an exercise that I would advise anyone to do after the proto drafts have gone up, simply because recorded drafts are just so rare that we need to really take those that we can get and try to do a bit of analysis and find out what is happening in the format. That's it so far, but there is a whole draft coming up, drafting matches, and then I'll be back in 2 weeks. See you then.